Pope Francis made worldwide headlines the other day with his comments that the church shouldn't be narrowly focused on gays, abortion, and birth control. But what was just as remarkable was the fact of the interview itself. The 12,000-word article began as a proposal from America, the National Catholic Review, and editor-in-chief Matt Malone joins me now from Dayton. We do have a bit of a satellite delay. Matt Malone, welcome. So you're sitting in the office with a colleague after Pope Francis' election, and you say what to him?
I said, how should we cover this papacy? And he said, we should try to interview the Pope. It was as simple as that. And it seemed unlikely. It was unprecedented. But we had just lived through 6 weeks of unprecedented and unlikely events with the resignation of Pope Benedict and the election of the first Jesuit as Pope. How in heaven's name did you pull this off? I think it's a minor miracle. I think we reached out to our colleagues. We reached out to our colleagues in Washington and our Jesuit colleagues in Rome, and they all said you need to talk to Father, the papal spokesperson, Father Federico Lombardi. And he said, the Pope doesn't really do interviews, but he might do something if you came as a coalition of groups. And at about that time, we learned that our Jesuit colleagues in Rome at La Civiltà Cattolica were also interested in doing an interview. So we teamed up with them, and we put the questions together, went to the Pope. The Pope said, yes, I'll sit down and answer these. And we sent the editor from Civiltà Cattolica over to do the interview, and he transcribed it, and then we translated it into English. It really was that simple. I guess all politics is local. I mean, now, the main thing... Let me just ask this question. As you disclose in reporting this remarkable interview, the article itself had to be approved in advance by the Vatican. Now, no American news organization would do that for a politician, even up to and including the president. So was there anything about that process that troubled you? Well, no. Because, we actually have a dog in this fight as Catholic journalists and as a journal that's run by the Society of Jesus. So, we have a declared interest in the story, and we consider ourselves a part of the church. But also, actually the text was not approved by the Vatican. It was approved by the Pope himself. We transcribed it, brought it back to him. He read it in Italian with the journalist from La Civiltà Cattolica and said, yes, that's what I said. Go ahead. So I thought of it more as confirming with the interviewee that we had accurately recorded what he had said, rather than seeking his approval. Well, it certainly didn't look like anything was cut out. Now, there were so many revealing things in this lengthy interview, but obviously one of the points that made worldwide headlines was when Pope Francis said, when asked about homosexuality, tell me, when God looks at a gay person, does he endorse the existence of this person or reject and condemn this person? We must always consider the person. Why, in your view, did that and similar comments strike such a chord? Well, because it's a real shift in emphasis. The church in the modern era has always taught that gay and lesbian people ought to be respected and that their dignity ought to be cherished and that they ought to be welcomed in the church. But what Pope Francis said was that that's not only an aspect of the church's teaching, it's the most important aspect of the church's teaching. And while that does not reflect a change in doctrine or the church's official position on things, I wouldn't underestimate the power of that shift in tone and that shift in emphasis, because it's precisely that shift from thinking of these persons as ideas and social constructs to thinking of them as living, breathing human beings who are our brothers and our sisters and so forth, that we're all undergoing. And so the church, in that sense, certainly in the person of Pope Francis, is in touch with the times. Now, I was really struck, Father Malone, by some of the other material where the former Cardinal Bergoglio talks about how he used to be more authoritarian, that he is a sinner like everyone else, that the church has to move beyond small-minded rules. But this is a man who also a couple months ago gave a news conference on an airplane with a bunch of reporters. So is this a new form of highly personal papal communication? It absolutely is. It is a new genre in papal communication. Other popes have given interviews before, but they have been heavily redacted. They've been heavily censored. They have been didactic, and they've been paternal, you know. But in this interview, the Pope is really speaking to us more as a brother. He's speaking to us in a more intimate way. It's not philosophical. It's not theological. He's speaking to us from the heart. And so between this interview and the interview on the plane, I think we are seeing the birth of a new genre of papal communication, one that is really better suited, I think, to the temper of the times, particularly an age that really values authenticity.
Right. And speaking of that, and I've got about half a minute here, and Pope Francis even has a Twitter account. So how much does all this surprise you, having covered previous popes who obviously kind of engage in more traditional communication?
It surprised me. I can tell you that I have never sat back and gasped while reading a papal document, nor have I laughed. And I did both of those things.
Well, if you gasp, then I think that probably says it all about this interview, which is just, it continues to resonate around the world. And congratulations on the way that you were able to do this. And I think it was very revealing for your readers, and appreciate your coming on and talking to us about it.
Thank you, sir.